Hi, my name is John Howes, and this is Stacks. Stacks is a 4-track granular looper with a built-in synth engine and a ton of different sequencing and modulation options. So yeah, in this video I'm going to give you a quick overview, show you how I'd make a track using Stacks. We're going to make a bass line, we're going to make a chord, and then we're going to make some percussion. We're going to loop it all together, we're going to stack it all on top of each other, and then use the granular stuff to kind of break it all apart. So to get started, I'm going to program in a bass line. When you first load up Stacks, you're going to hear this one note. If we turn the trigs on some of the steps, we'll hear notes on those steps too. I can use the quantizer here to turn notes on and off. Let's turn on all the trigs. So looking at the oscillator, this is a wavetable oscillator, and you can move the wavetable position using the X and Y axes. We're currently in wavebank A, but there's a bunch of different wavebanks here that you can choose from. And these have a bunch of different waveforms in. B is really good for bass lines, so we're going to use that for this. Next we have FM. You can change the wave shape here, and the frequency and the amount. There's some more extreme FM types like EFM. We've also got amplitude modulation and phase modulation. Next we've got sub. So the sub can actually go higher or lower than the bass frequency. Next we've got a filter. This is a dual filter, so there's a high pass and a low pass. If I switch over to rubber band mode, then this becomes a bandpass filter where the high pass sets the initial frequency and the low pass sets the bandwidth. This is all being fed into our VCA, and that's currently set in low pass gate mode. So in low pass gate mode, not only is the volume going to be attenuated, but the high frequencies will be attenuated too. So if I bring ping down, here we start to lose some of the high frequencies. Bite is then resonance. And then obviously decay sets length of notes. We've got all these different sequences and modulators on the left. Let's assign them to the synth and start to tweak the sound of it. So let's start by assigning this high pass filter. We'll assign it to this sequencer down here. Press this random button, we can get different random values in the sequencer. We can then assign the sequencer to the parameter by selecting this here and then defining the range. Let's assign the envelope to the low pass. We can use the spread here, and this is going to detune the waves slightly. So this is actually a 4-voice synth, and we have like 4-voice unison right now. So if we increase the spread, it's going to detune the 4 oscillators and spread them across the stereo field. Phase reset is going to reset the phase of the oscillators on every single new note. Next we've got a delay and a reverb. Let's also assign this sequence to the decay length. We'll assign it to this decay down here as well. So if we're liking the sound of this bass line, we can record it as a loop, or record it into track A here by hitting the record button. Now if I bring down the input level, we're just listening to this loop that we recorded here. So now we can use the synth to make something totally different. So what we'll do, we'll bring the input level for the synth back up. Now we're listening to our synth up here again. Now we're going to turn this into a chord. So to do that, first we're going to change the step length to 32. Now this is going to make the sequence 32 steps long. Next we'll set these to be 8 steps long. Now, as I mentioned, this is a polysynth, so we can assign different chords on each stage using this slider here. Let's change wavebanks. And we'll remove some of this modulation from the filter. To do that, let's right click on this dial, and this brings up the modulation window where you can see every single modulation source and how it's affecting that one parameter. So we can turn off sequence of B like so. Alternatively, if we click on say the amp decay, we can just reset all of them by hitting the reset button here. We'll do that on this envelope as well. Now, like I said before, we're using the low pass gates, so some of the high frequencies are attenuated. So if we switch over to clean mode, now all of our frequencies are going to get through. Here I'm going to assign the XY pad to the X and Y of the oscillator, and this will let us scan the wavetables using the XY pad here. So I set the range, and then using the XY pad I can scan around that waveform. So just tweak the chords here, add a bit of chorus, and maybe some reverb as well. We'll change the length of the note and add some attack. Now let's assign the chaos generators here, ripple and flutter. Let's assign these to the filter cutoff. So let's say I like this chord pattern, we'll record this in as another loop. We'll do this on track B. And then I'll modulate, I'll move this XY pad while we're recording to change the wave shape. That's our second loop recorded in, and we'll see how that sounds with the bass. Okay, this is sounding pretty good so far. Next we're going to add a kick drum. So we'll turn this chord voice into a kick drum sound. Let's first set the steps to 4. We'll take the chord off. And we'll go to bank A. Let's reset the modulation for these by just hitting reset. We'll do it for these filters as well. Tweak our amp settings. Okay, we'll take off the reverb and the delay. And we'll use the envelope on the pitch bend. This is going to give us like a knocking sound. We'll add some distortion using the bit reduction. We'll set this to be pre-filter. We'll use the same envelope that we used for the pitch bend on the filter cutoff. We can add some distortion using heat here. And then we'll just tweak this envelope slightly. Okay, so if I like the sound of this kick drum, let's record it in as loop onto track C. So now, track C is playing our kick drum. We'll bring the synth level back up and we'll record a snare drum on top of that. So we'll set the steps to 8. Our snare is going to be very similar to our kick drum. Let's just add some noise here. Remove the modulation from the filter, and we'll take out some of those low frequencies. Maybe some FM would be good here. Now in the delay we have a frequency shifter, and this is really good for percussive stuff. So let's bring the delay in. We'll link both sides, and then using the frequency shifter we can pitch that up or down. On the reverb, so far we used the algorithmic reverb, but there's also a couple of spring reverbs in here. So in parallel, it's going to go to the algorithmic reverb and the convolution reverb, which is the spring reverb. We can set the blend on this side. Here we just got the spring. Here's just the algorithmic stuff. So let's say I like the sound of this snare, we can then overdub it on top of the loop that we just recorded. To do that, we go to View CD, here's our kick drum loop, then we'll hit the overdub button, and that'll layer the snare on top. So when the loop gets background, now we're recording. Now if I bring the input level down, we're just listening to that loop again. Okay, now we're going to add a hi-hat. To do that, let's just set the steps to 1 on all these. We'll set the pitch to the top. And bring the input level up. Let's remove the pitch bend. Now, if we switch over to bank G, that has some kind of noisy waveforms in. We'll use EFM here to get more harmonics. And then we'll modulate the decay time using this sequencer here. Let's overdub this on top of our kick and snare. Bring the input level down, and now we're just listening to our loop again. So we've got the kick drum, we've got the snare, and we've got the hi-hat all in one looper. Let's bring in the other elements to see how they sound together. And then the chords. We've got one looper left, and what we're going to do with this is we're going to resample everything that we've recorded so far and stack it all into one single looper. To do that, we'll switch over to resample. We'll pull the level down a little just so we don't clip. And then I'm going to time it so that when this kick drum loop goes around, we'll start the recording of the new loop. Here we go. So this loop is going to be everything that we recorded so far merged together. We bring down the level of our other loops. Just listening to track D now, which is all of our loops recorded together. I'm gonna bring the level down because I was definitely clipping a bit loud. Yeah, now we'll look at this track D looper, because there's a bunch of stuff that we can do now that we recorded the loop. Each of these loopers is actually a granular looper, and there's 3 different playback modes. There's real, which is kind of like repitch in live, where it's going to pitch the loop up or down depending on any BPM changes. Slice is like a granular looper, and in slice mode, the size is always going to be linked to different like clock divisions, so it'll be like 16th at the lowest, and yeah. If we change the size, you can see the grid kind of scales to match those grain sizes. Seek sets the position within the playback buffer where we are, and scan determines whether we go forwards or back. So if I set this to go back, we can get loops play backwards like that. Or you might have heard there, we can freeze it in the middle. And then we can use the waveform to kind of scan around. Next, spray is going to kind of offset the position slightly randomly. And then sparse is kind of like your density. So we're in slice mode now, let's change over to grain mode. And this is going to completely remove us from any kind of time sync, but it's going to give us a lot more options with our grain size. We'll bring the spray down. Now, by increasing the scan, here we kind of get like time stretching. And this plays really nice by changing the size of the grains. Do we want to go backwards? if the scan's set to the right, you know, it's kind of just going to play like normal. Now we've kind of froze this grain, we can change the pitch, and the pitch is going to be linked to the quantizer up here. So if I turn some of these notes off, and just like everything else in Stax, these parameters are completely modulatable using the LFOs and the sequences. So let's do a bit of that now. We'll assign our sequencer to the pitch. Yeah, you get some crazy kind of granular effects. And yeah, there's a lot of fun things to explore in here. And the fun thing is that like now we're doing this kind of granular playback, we can then resample this again and just keep adding more layers, you know. We can kind of delete everything that we've recorded so far in these buffers. And start recording more loops and more layers on top. And we kind of have this like self-recycling behavior, you know, where you're building up loops, destroy them with the granular stuff, and then build up more loops. If at any point you like any of these loops as well, you can just kind of drag them out into your project by dragging the file like this. And there's our, you know, loop that we recorded earlier. We'll assign this delay and reverb send to this flutter here. I'll talk about what all these different modulation things do in another video. But yeah, this is Stax. It's a 4-track granular looper, built-in synth engine, a ton of different modulation options. It's available now in early access as a VST3 as an audio unit on Mac and Windows. It's also available soon as a standalone application as an AU3 for iPad and iOS. Yeah, I decided to put this out in early access because there's a ton of new features that I want to add. I plan on working on this for the next few months. But as it stands now, it's quite good fun. And yeah, I kind of want to get it into your hands as soon as possible, now that everything's working. So yeah, let me know what you think. I'd love to know what you think. If you've got any questions or anything like that, just leave a comment below. You can sign up to Discord, where I'm going to be posting more videos and more regular updates. And yeah, this is available now, conglearn.co.uk/Stax. Thanks for watching, and hope you enjoy.